welcome back to the channel, guys. And today we are in for a treat because we are going to play, of course, Star Citizen. And what we're looking at is the brand new Polaris here. And we crewed it with the Irad. Now, you may remember yesterday's video where I put an entire squadron of Furies inside. As you can see here, the hangar is empty. That's right, when I went to the ASUP terminal yesterday, despite storing the ship, the engines were turned off, right? It was stored properly. Well, unfortunately, the ship ended up being destroyed with all the 12 fighters inside, so we had to start over from scratch. And this time the boys decided to just bring their own ships, and we would just crew it with, you know, turrets and torpedoes, and that would basically have been it here. So we've got Geek Citizen here who is going to put a Scorpius inside, and we can see that it barely fits. Shadow Rise here is flying an F8, and it does not go inside, of course, because there's not enough room to fit both a Scorpius and an F8. This is not an Idris, which is why I said that I believe that this ship is going to be perfect for snub fighter, but if you have a long-range fighter, or at least a fighter with long-range capability, it's just best to fly it above it. After all, this is a sub-capital ship, right? It's not a dreadnought, it's not a carrier, it's not a destroyer, it's just a frigate, a Polaris frigate, right? So a frigate is supposed to have just a small detail of fighters. Also, interestingly here, we ended up finding Moist Noodle. So yes, that is his ship right here, the crew. So his name in the radar, apparently they were excited, were like, Irad, it's Moist Noodle! So that's why we ended up sitting next to him. But anyway, it's the PTU, Star Citizen at 3.24.3 PTU, so we decided to take a mission, a save Stenton mission, which is one of those new dynamic events that's coming up with 3.24.3. Spoiler, guys, it's completely broken. But that being said, we still decided to get in for a little bit of action. Now, because nobody wanted to fly the ship, and it's not even my ship actually, it's Deplorable Infidel's ship, well, I volunteered to fly the ship because it would also provide with good visuals by simply pressing F4. I've also noticed that there are still a couple of fighters here. We're supposed to be fighting an Idris, but the Idris did not show up here. I suppose we're fighting the fighters first and then the Idris. It's something that happened here at the Comoray. So we're supposed to defend the Comoray, but it turned out that another Polaris was there. Another player Polaris was there, and that player Polaris decided to attack us instead of doing the mission. So I suppose that they were here not to complete the mission, but to grief and have a little fun. That's okay, because we have a fully crewed, well, almost fully crewed Polaris. So we also decided to forget about the mission and attack the Polaris here. Polaris, which seems to be taking a little bit of damage and is heading towards us. I was not expecting that at first. So, well, it's going to be a little bit of jousting here between this Polaris and myself, as you can see here. Now, at the same time, because we are also doing the mission, we are being attacked by the enemy fighters. And I was not really expecting enemy fighters to be attacking just us. I was hoping that they would be attacking the other Polaris as well, but for some reason they seemed to be ignoring that other Polaris. Now, we are not very effective yet. Some of our crew members didn't know where to go inside the ship. They still got lost here. And you can see here that the other Polaris tried to use ramming as a tactic, which I am glad to announce miserably failed. The Polaris has got some really strong shields, apparently. And you can see that despite their attempt at ramming the ship, our shields have not been depleted. Our hull is still as it should be. No red on the hull. They're going to try again, as you can see here. There you go. Boom. And nothing happens. It's not going to damage the ship at all. This is great. This is great. I don't know if there was an effort here on the behalf of CIG to mitigate ramming, but this is definitely some improvement here. A couple of years ago, this would have been a disaster. It would have been game over already, but I'm glad to see that as of right now in 2024, ramming like this is not ruining our gameplay experience anymore. So that's really great news. Now the boys of the Rat Club are still trying to shoot at the other Polaris and the fighters at the same time. Now we've also noticed that some of the turrets of the Polaris are missile turrets. So they were wondering why they could not shoot any lasers. Well, that's because they are shooting lasers, and that's why you may see sometimes some missiles being shot out of the side of the Polaris, right? It's some from some of the crew members who are firing those missiles. We also have some really big ballistic guns on the Polaris as well. This is not me who's shooting. The pilot doesn't have access to any guns when you are flying the Polaris, a little bit like the Karak, so you have to rely on the crew for that. See the turrets definitely doing their job. We've got the front turret, a turret on the side, there's a turret on the underbelly of the ship that's also equipped. Unfortunately, by the time of recording this video, Admiral Gruffus had too many issues. He was ejected out of the ship for some reason and decided not to stay with us. I totally understand. I personally also was very frustrated with the game at this point. We've also noticed that turrets were not pressurized, so make sure to have a helmet. One of our crew members, Deplorable Infidel, almost died because the turret was not pressurized and he did not have a helmet. Yes, if you watched the Squadron 42 demo, it's also what the player character does, and some of the other NPCs say rookie mistake. So that's what they said. Diplo, next time, don't forget the helmet, right? It goes for everybody, of course. Looks like we got a couple of additional radar contacts. So at this point, we didn't feel the need to fly the Scorpius that was in the cargo hold, but it's something that we're eventually going to do, right? So we're still having to deal with the enemy fighters, and it seems like they have given up on ramming us. They've been trying so hard and it just hasn't worked. We've also been trying to figure out how to launch torpedoes as well. They've been saying, Iran, you need to get some distance. Iran, we are too close from that ship here. And it's true, so that's why I decided to eventually try to get a little extra speed and get out of there. But they've been following me for quite some time in that Polaris. So even if I was trying to get some extra speed, extra distance, it just didn't work. Now we were also wondering why they were not sending torpedoes, or why they were not shooting at us that much, and I think it's because that Polaris that we are fighting is probably understaffed. Now that's really interesting because they're barely shooting. They were doing a little bit of ramming. Sometimes they got a few missiles every now and then. Sometimes there was like one turret that was shooting us. So what I believe is that this Polaris that's out there just has one crew member in addition to the pilot, and that they are switching positions. That's the it's the only solution I have to this. You can see there's one turret that was firing, and that was basically it. Now, at some points, eventually, we didn't see any fighters that were fighting us here on the Slicer side, which is of course from the Save Stanton mission. So we assume that these fighters were eventually gone or deactivated, which is something that we are going to find eventually further on the line. Looks like they got their gunners here firing at us. Still trying to ram us, but it just doesn't work. There's just some weird trajectory here, as you can see. Looks like it was probably a missile. Now, I've got to say that this is really awesome to see these ships going at it. Those ships battling like that. That is... oh, maybe they have two gunners there, because I see their ballistic and some lasers as well. So it looks like they have two gunners. Yeah, they have two turrets firing at us. The way I'm recording this is, of course, after playing. So this was recorded yesterday, in yesterday's session with the Red Club. By the way, if you wish to join the Red Club, I will put the link in the comment section down below. We welcome everyone who wants to have a little fun in Star Citizen. We're a casual org, right? We don't do very serious gameplay, but we try to accomplish things together, right, whenever we have time, but there's not really much commitment, right? It's just come as you are and come whenever you can, right? So yeah, you want to join us and be part of the crew, then feel free to join, right? Anyway, those shields started to become red, so we decided to quantum out and then come back. So we came back separately, and you can see something white is coming, or some fire is coming out of the Polaris, and that is, guys, that is a torpedo. We had enough distance. This time, the boys were able to send a couple of torpedoes. There's a second one there, and boom! And they're even sending a third torpedo. Oh yeah, that Polaris is pretty much dead here. I think that by the time they send the third torpedo, the Polaris, the enemy Polaris, went into self-death mode, because you can see it's white as I'm targeting it. And we can also see that the engines have been destroyed, so it's totally self-death.
Check fire.
Yeah, there is nothing that this Polaris can do now. It's a wreck. I went inside just to make sure that there was nobody left here. I wanted to eradicate the crew eventually, but they decided to log out, as you can see in the chat. Cheers, lad. Keep firing on this Polaris. Thanks for the fun. At least they acknowledged that they were here to have fun, and they even said GG. So we appreciate here the sportsmanship at the Red Club. And so with that comes the end of this video. I hope that you appreciated this gameplay video here with Polaris versus Polaris fight. If you want to see more of that content, let me know also in the comment section down below. If you appreciate this content and you want to support the channel, we have the links to Patreon and the YouTube Join membership program. It really helps a lot. It's also going to help for December's giveaway, as a lot of these funds will go for the giveaway. So if you also want to help the community with that, well, feel free to do so. I'll see you guys tomorrow for more Star Citizen content. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I've been Irad. Take care. Bye.